Welcome everyone to the Cloud Foundry Summit and another Eirini talk, to production and beyond. This talk is presented to you by Dimitris Karakasilis from SUSE, Greece, and Jules from IBM, Germany.
Alright, thank you Google Voice for that introduction. So let's talk a little bit or speak a little bit about production readiness and Eirini. In this talk, we will talk about what happened since the last CF Summit till today. We will talk about production readiness, what it means, how we define production readiness, and how far Eirini is it mature enough? Then we'll continue to speak about in which products Eirini is available, stuff like that. And finally, we will get to the last part of the talk, which is when and how Eirini is going to make it into the public IBM offering of Cloud Foundry. But before we start, let's take a look at some numbers. We are 8 people working full-time on the Eirini project, with people from VMware, SAP, SUSE, and IBM. And we do 1 week long sprints. We do about 80 commits in a month, and all code that we commit have to pass our own set of acceptance tests, the Eirini acceptance tests that we call EATs. And everything that passes the EATs ends up in a release. And we try to release every week, which doesn't work, but we release once or twice a month. Why are we bringing up these numbers? Simply because we think for a production-ready component project, it is important to know that there is some amount of people behind it, and that we maintain it, and that we still do some feature work. And now let's take a look what we did since the last summit till today and what features we worked on. So what you see here is a timeline starting from the last CF summit. And what you can see is that we released 1.0 around the time of the last CF Summit Europe. And since then we released about 10 releases. We focused our work mainly on V3 support, like V3 deployments, V3 tasks, but also we focused a lot on Docker support. We were able to push Docker images before, but now you're also able to push Docker images from private registries, stuff like that. And we also focused on app resiliency and security. For example, we try to spread the load over Kubernetes workers when we push multiple instances of an application. We try to make sure that one application is not able to reach another application in the cluster easily, or the control plane itself, because in KubeCF and CF the control plane is running in the same cluster. Another worth mentioning thing is environment variable support, like the CF instance index. I want to mention it because there is no native way today in Kubernetes to get the instance index of npod like you do in Cloud Foundry Diego, and we had to come up with our own solution to support that kind of environment variables. We also did other feature work and a lot of bug fixes. If you're really interested in what in particular we did in each of those releases, I can just say go to GitHub Cloud Foundry incubator, to the Eirini release repository, and go to the release section. We wrote basically everything down that we did in each particular release. And with that, I hand over to Dimitris.
Thank you, Jules. So let us talk a bit about terminology. What does it mean to be production ready? The term is a bit vague, so it may mean different things to different people. So let us give a definition for which I hope we will all agree. We see three aspects to that term. It's one of them is feature completeness, the other is stability, and the last one is support. It may involve other stuff, but we think these are the three most important things to call something production ready. So feature completeness. Usually we consider this term to be equal to feature parity when it comes to Eirini and Diego. And okay, that makes some sense because Diego is what people have been using so far. So switching to something else, they hope they get the same features. And as I said, it makes sense. And we're trying to get there, of course, either by implementing features in Eirini core or through third-party extensions using the EiriniX library. So whatever has an asterisk in this slide involves somehow the EiriniX library. But feature completeness is not the same thing as feature parity. So when something is feature complete, it means it has all the features I need to complete a task. It does the job, right? So if whatever is in the middle box here and the right box is what you need, then you're good to go. It's feature complete for your use case. If it's on the left box, which is things only Diego has right now, then it's missing it. So you would have to wait until it's implemented. So you can see that, for example, the right box is interesting because you can see some things Diego doesn't have. So Kubernetes tooling is so why do you switch to Eirini, right? Because you already have Kubernetes clusters. You're used to working with Kubernetes. You know your way through the Kubernetes objects and how to debug it. So that's one benefit you get with Eirini. And flat containers as well because you don't run containers in containers. So there are some things you will get with Eirini even though we don't have feature parity. Regarding stability now, Eirini has the benefits to be delegating to Kubernetes as a scheduler, which is a good thing. So after the point where you have a pod or more pods, which is your application, then it's all Kubernetes. So we somehow inherit the stability of the platform we're based on. But Eirini, of course, is everything until that point. So all the code that needs to work in order to get your application running as a pod. And as Jules showed in that slide with the timeline with the releases of the last year, a lot of work has been put into Eirini in making it more stable. And we have test suites that test many of the features. We also run cuts. So yeah, it is stable enough to be considered production ready. And the last aspect of production readiness I want to talk about is support. So support is the answer to the question, who's going to help me when I have a problem? And this depends on who you are. So are you just consuming the open source project or are you a paying customer? So when you're using an open source project, you expect to get help from the maintainers of the project. We have two consumers right now, two projects consuming Eirini, which are KubeCF and CF4K. In KubeCF, you still have the option to use Diego if you want, but Eirini is considered stable there as well. Same thing for CF4K, I guess, since this is the only option. So you should expect help from those teams as well, since it's part of their project, their product, but of course from the Eirini team itself. And product-wise, SUSE announced Eirini as stable in the latest CAP release. So CAP is the SUSE product that is based on KubeCF. For paying customers, SUSE CAP provides support. So it's part of what is supported in the SUSE CAP product, the latest release. And I will let Jules tell us the plans IBM has on when Eirini will be integrated in IBM products. So back to you, Jules.
All right, thank you, Dimitris. So what about IBM and Eirini? So unlike SUSE, IBM does not offer a single tenancy Cloud Foundry, but we used to have one, which was Cloud Foundry Enterprise Edition, but we deprecated it like early this year. What we have is a multi-tenancy Cloud Foundry, basically where everyone can sign up and push their apps to the cloud. And this Cloud Foundry today is based on BOSH, which means it comes on, with Diego backend and is based on VMs. Do we plan to move that to a Kubernetes-based environment? Yes, of course we do. But before we handle that, let's take a closer look at how this environment looks like today. So we have multiple regions. We have one in the US, we have two in Europe, and we have one more in Sydney. And each of these deployments are spread through multiple data centers, and each of those data centers has hundreds to thousands of cells. So it is basically a huge deployment. So what is the plan to migrate this huge deployment to a Kubernetes-based deployment? We plan to use KubeCF for that. As we know, KubeCF supports Diego and KubeCF supports Eirini. So this is perfect for us because now we don't have to do one huge migration step from BOSH and Diego directly to Kubernetes and Eirini. Instead, we can do more like a two-step deployment where we say, okay, we move from BOSH with Diego to a Kubernetes-based Cloud Foundry with Diego, which is KubeCF. And after that, we switch the backend from Diego to Eirini. So this would look like this. So in step one, we say, okay, we move first all applications to a Kubernetes-based Diego environment. So how does that look like? We basically deploy cells across multiple Kubernetes clusters, and we leave the control plane in the first place where it is BOSH-based, VM-based, and we point the backend to this Kubernetes clusters where Diego is running. As Diego doesn't use any Kubernetes native features, here Kubernetes just acts as a kind of wrapper, and we just need to make the networking clear to basically be able to point the control plane of Cloud Foundry to Diego, which is running on Kubernetes. And then we would like to move the control plane over to Kubernetes as well, and then we have like a full-based Kubernetes-based Cloud Foundry running based on KubeCF. And in the next part, which is step 2, we would start to exchange the backend, the Diego backend, with Eirini, and finally have all apps also running natively on Kubernetes. So this is the plan. How does that look like? IBM has some requirements. So it needs to be reliable, the environments need to be scalable, and we need high availability. And based on these requirements, we want to use multiple clusters, as I already said. And today, we cannot do that with Eirini. So we need to enable Eirini to be able to speak to multiple Eirini clusters, or we need to make it in another way where we say we deploy one Eirini on each cluster, and we say the cloud controller is able to speak to different Eirini instances on different clusters. So what the perfect solution here would be is not clear yet. We need to investigate, we need to spike on it and do a little bit of research what would be the best way to do it. But this is definitely some work we are going to do in the next time. And I hope that at the next summit I can tell you more about how it went or what the solution is. With that, here's my conclusion. Eirini is ready to use. For single tenancy, definitely, we think is robust enough, it's mature enough. Yeah, just go ahead. You can go use KubeCF or CF4Kates. Both are defaulting to Eirini. CF4Kates always use Eirini as a default. They don't even have an option for Diego. And KubeCF, you can use Diego and Eirini, and it might be an option for you to migrate from an existing Bosch deployment to a Kubernetes-based deployment as we do at IBM. And with that, I want to say thank you for coming to our talk, and we are happy to answer some questions.
All right. I hope you can hear me. Okay. Jules will be joining shortly. Has to figure out how to join because I started the broadcast. I'm not sure if all the people I can see on the right can hear me, or it just transfers everybody from the presentation. I hope you liked the presentation. It wasn't too detailed, I think. Oh, nice. Thanks, Bernd. I guess we could dive a lot more into the changes that went into. Yeah, I was prepared. I had every tab open, Daniel. um, yeah, so we just showed the releases, but not the features that went in. So you should definitely give it a try. And if you don't want to go into that trouble yourself, just have someone show that to you in SUSE booth at least. Jules, I'm not sure he started the progress already. Yeah, I did. There are people, yeah. Okay, Jules has some trouble. So you can just ask me. So we had a poll, which I can see here. No, I can no longer see the poll. I checked it right before yeah, right before the presentation ended. So I see some people had used the Eirini already. Not sure, maybe that was the Eirini team. Okay, I guess more people have trouble joining this Q&A. I remember in the last summit I couldn't join the Q&A too. So what about Eirini?
Hey,
Hey,
sorry.
Mario, what is the question? What about it? Yeah. Oh, there's a question, an incoming one. Are there any stats anywhere on how scalable Eirini is versus Diego? I'm thinking of a customer running X0, okay, that's not 0, comma 0 application instances, and whether Eirini will support this sort of scale in a single foundation. Jules, correct me if I'm wrong. We haven't run tests in that scale. See tens of thousands applications Daniel mentions. So I'm pretty sure nobody has done that yet.
Hello.
Oh, you can't hear us, Jules?
Now I can. I had to reload.
Okay.
Let's go ahead.
Okay. I was trying to answer to Daniel's question regarding scalability of Eirini. So there are two things to that, right? So first of all, we all know there's a limit of pods, a default limit of 110, if I recall correctly, of pods you can run in a node. So first of all, you would have to figure out how you fit um, tens of thousands of applications in a Kubernetes cluster, which is a problem of its own. And then, of course, you have the problem of Eirini, whether it can squeeze them in or not. That would mean you would need HA components from Eirini and other stuff, uh, which is an investigation we still have to do. So how scalable are the Eirini components, and then you have to reach the next problem, which would be where you put them, right? But I think we don't have a clear answer to that, Jules, at least to that scale.
So yeah, we did some scale testing like a year ago. I don't remember the exact numbers now, but I think we pushed about 1,000 apps, and Eirini was still fine. So there was nothing like a bottleneck really on Eirini side. I think there was some. I think we did it with SCF back in the days, but we still want to do some scalability testing with CF4K, so KubeCF. So this is something we'll do also in the next time. I hope this answers the question.
Yeah, me too. And there's another question from Timon. No ASD in Eirini. I guess that was one of the slides I showed of the things that are missing in Eirini compared to Diego. And the question is, oh, I lost my tab. Where is it? Is there another way to limit the network access for apps when running with Eirini? I guess another way means a workaround until we have it. So it could be anything that works, right? So in that case, you would probably use Eirini, sorry, Kubernetes objects, network policies, and such. That means you would have to talk directly to Kubernetes, which is kind of the reason we had the CF in the first place, right? You're not supposed to talk to Kubernetes. Maybe you don't even have access to your cluster. If permissions are set up correctly, maybe you can't even do that. Maybe as a user, you don't have. So as a developer pushing an app or multiple apps, maybe you don't have permissions to do so. So that might not be a viable solution or a workaround. So yeah, we would need to get as these security groups, application security groups in Eirini to do that. So there are, as I said, that's at least that's what I tried to say in my part of the presentation is you have to we have to be clear on what works and what not, and when someone decides whether to use it or not, it should be based on the needs, right? So if Eirini can own the cluster, so if you're deploying um, uh, Cloud Foundry on a single cluster and you only have a single instance of Cloud Foundry there with a single tenant, you care less about other stuff. So maybe you're deploying applications that should talk to each other anyway. So yeah, we have to be clear on what's missing for people to decide. So it doesn't mean it's production ready for everybody, right? I hope that's answering the question. I'm clicking on answer live. I guess that means I answered on video. Okay, I'm clicking that one. Mart is asking, is the future preferred setup that for every AZ you have a separate Kubernetes cluster? Jules, I think that's for you.
I think for IBM, yes. For details, again, there was a talk by Richard Johnson from IBM, who is doing a lot of work in that area for moving from VMs to a containerized Cloud Foundry, in that case, KubeCF. But at large scale, it might be better to use multiple Kubernetes clusters just because of scalability. Kubernetes has a single API, and there's a lot of pressure on it, especially if you push a lot of apps. In the past, there was like problems with etcd. I don't know which version of Kubernetes it was. I think 1.13 or something. But they changed it at some point, and now you can put much more load on the etcd in Kubernetes. But still, we don't know yet how many apps you can really, or how much you can really scale one single Kubernetes cluster. And there's again like many questions about high availability, risk, resiliency, and so on. So for us at IBM, it's definitely the preferred way to do it on that huge deployment of Cloud Foundry.
All right. Another question from Daniel. Is IBM seeing any business benefit benefit from moving to Kubernetes other than we don't have to worry about the dwindling BOSS skill set?
For public offering, I mean, there's probably nothing for the users. There's probably not a visible benefit for the users, but for us on the operational side, probably yes, as we can rely on our Kubernetes offerings to run our deployment there. But this is probably also like a better question for Richard Johnson from IBM. He should be around.
Which makes me think of that. I think it was in the on conference that the discussion about the future of BOSS. Given CF was the main project based on BOSS, that makes you think of how well BOSS will be supported in the future and whether you should keep investing on that, right? Of course, I can't talk for IBM, but I'm thinking that it could be something to think about, whether you invest in Kubernetes skills, train your people on that, or continue doing that in BOSS. Yeah.
That too.
Okay. There are no other questions coming in. And congrats, Jules, live for the award, since we're here.
Thank you.
So maybe the community is too small, but two of the people that took an award are colleagues of mine, both you and Ettore.
Yeah, no, that's nice.
So I'm too lucky.
That's really cool.
PWS is dead. Oh, it's gone. Where did it go?
Yeah, where did it go?
Did you click on it? No, someone clicked on it. Yeah, it's in answered questions. Let's read it from there. That's Pivotal Web Services, right? PWS is dead. Is IBM the best solution to use CF without putting up your own solution? You're asking Jules now, come on.
As an IBMer, yes, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
You could as well answer it was the best solution before.
Exactly. Always
I could answer
IBM.
that question. Don't ask easy questions, come on.
No, it's fine.
Okay. Ask your questions quickly before we get kicked out. I don't know how this works. Either we stop it or we get kicked out. But
I think if there are no answers coming in anymore, let's wait another, I don't know, minute.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, is there more?
No, Dan. He just replied in chat. On behalf of my friends at EiriniX, the public CF is also an alternative to PWS. Nice.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you very much for attending our talk. I hope it was informative and you enjoyed it. And thank you for the questions.
And yeah, feel free to find us in Slack and ask any questions you couldn't ask now or you think later.
Yeah.
And yeah, see you around. See you at the SUSE booth. I will be there, so we can try things hands-on there. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.